I want to say good morning because it's like 6:30 in the morning. So good morning, good afternoon from wherever you're joining today. And Paul, thank you for the wonderful introduction. And Alan, really super excited to have the opportunity to talk a little bit about what Pete and I have sort of kind of navigated through, the journey that we've been on, and really sort of, I think Clancy and Alex, you might find this a little bit sort of important and interesting for some of the work that you're doing, but really scaling with purpose. And Pete and I work for an amazing organisation, a global digital gifting company by the name of Prezzee. And we started our journey around about 4 years ago. And we both sort of started working in our global customer care team. We are located we service customers in 7 different countries. And we have agents. I think, Pete, we were operating in something like 8 different time zones at one point. So we've sort of consolidated some of our locations, and we sort of partner with people based in the Philippines, but also based in Egypt. Because we do service 7 different regions, we have had to, during that 4 year period, just ensure that our call centres are actually multilingual as well. We're in Australia, New Zealand, US, UK, Canada, France, and Ireland. And what was interesting is when we did venture into Canada, obviously in the province of Quebec, we needed to make sure that we offered French Canadian first and English second. So that just gives you a little bit of an appreciation for sort of the breadth of the work that Pete and I do. But when we stepped in 4 years ago, we had an amazing group of customer care agents and team, but there was a little bit of pain. And so, Alex, we're in the global gifting sort of sector. And obviously, there were a couple of key moments in our calendar. And this thing called Black Friday that was kind of like happened, sort of kind of, I think it was like the third Thursday of the month in November. And then all of a sudden, that Black Friday sort of period extended to a week out, 2 weeks out, and we'll see how early those Black Friday gifting sort of promotions go. But obviously, that's when things kick off for us in the lead up to Christmas and servicing our customers who are purchasing digital gift cards. And then obviously every moment in between. So end of financial year, Mother's Day, Father's Day. So we're kind of pretty busy all year round, but that lead up into that sort of season slash holiday period is quite busy for us. So the journey that Pete and I have been on is trying to take an effective customer care division to effortless and then to somewhat service excellence. And we sort of achieved that within the first couple of years. And we did pretty much everything that I'm sure everybody on this call sort of focused on, which was system enhancements, defining KPIs, putting in place a workforce management tool, an operating rhythm, a voice of the customer program, some modular learning curriculum, and building a knowledge base, and then skills-based onboarding to implementing sort of a robust change management framework. So we did all those wonderful things over a sort of a 12 to 18 month period. And some of the things that we were able to achieve in that time was really transform an abandonment rate that was kind of at 91% to almost 8%, an average sort of ticket response time from 3 days to minutes. Productivity almost tripled during that time, and we took our Trustpilot score from 1.6 to 4.7. We halved the cost to serve, and our agent onboarding at that time took about 8 weeks, and we managed to get that down to 2.5 weeks. And along the way, whilst we were going through a significant period of change, we managed to have employee engagement scores that were at 93 and 96%. So obviously not only what we were doing, but how we were going about it was certainly, we were able to take our team on the journey. At that point, after that 2 year mark, the board started to share their expectations just in relation to aspirations for growth over the next 3 years. But the board also started talking a lot about the expectations to use and leverage AI. They didn't really know what that meant or how to go about it. And to be honest, for Pete and I, we weren't, it took us a little bit of time to develop what we wanted to do. And we knew we had to leverage off emerging technology, but we didn't know sort of where to start. And we sort of wanted to make sure that where we started was where we wanted to end. So scaling with purpose became almost our kind of mantra. Um, Once we did have a blueprint, it took a little while to convince the management team to provide us with the resources to really sort of kind of provide that support. But I wanted to share with you sort of kind of where it all started, and I'm hoping that yeah, there we go. So in terms of basically transforming or presenting a digital first strategy to our organization, we really needed to embark on some desktop research about getting to know our customers. And essentially, today, the Gen Z and Generation Alpha basically are around 28% of our well, they influence 28% of the household income. But we knew that over time that that particular influence would grow quite significantly. And what we wanted to do was learn a little bit more about the channels that that cohort like to be kind of serviced, I guess. And what we found was super interesting actually, because we actually found that you know we have obviously 6 or 7 different channels ranging from SMS, email, they're on the screen there, web form, voice, social media, and chat. But what we realized about this cohort was that they are an on-demand generation. So 71% of Gen Z customers believe that a live phone call, a quicker and more convenient way to solve a customer service matter. Now, I don't know about you, but I've got little people at home and they don't want to talk to anyone. But if they've got a problem, what I found quite interesting is they kind of want to talk to people about it. And so what I'm just sort of sharing on screen is the channels that we found that cohort was more likely to use. And I was really surprised that voice was a channel that they were still interested in. And I should caveat this by saying our proposition is a 24/7 customer service proposition. And in the gift card sector, we're one of only a few organisations that actually offer phone support. What we also found about this particular cohort is they have no patience whatsoever for slow and fragmented communication channels. So if you are going to provide a voice channel, you need to nail that. Because Gen Z and Alphas, they want to make sure those calls are answered quickly, and they've already done the research. And then the last thing about this cohort is they do want that extended service hour. So we find that even though we're servicing, the AU market, we're taking calls right at the end of the day. So instant messaging are integrated into sort of the daily lives of this particular cohort. The other challenge that we sort of kind of leaned into was that the board shared with us their growth aspirations. And when they shared with us those growth aspirations, you can see I haven't obviously for commercial purposes given you an indication of sales, but that's what the huge dark bars represent. But in the event that we were going to support the business in their growth trajectory, our 73 BPO and agents would almost have to grow to 350 over a 2-year period. So this is just a visual representation of if we didn't change our model, we actually needed to grab hold of almost additional 300 resources. And so that's why we knew that we had to do something different and we had to leverage off emerging technology in order to do so. Did I capture that okay, Pete?
Yeah, thanks, Lee. I think definitely the volume growth of Prezzee is something that takes a little while to hand on. Our focus has always been really on the step changes that we can deliver through that piece. So when we're going, here's the initiatives. These are the one and two percenters. I know they're really valuable. We just didn't have time, so we really focused on the things that are going to deliver us 10 to 20% improvement. And try and stick true to that service differentiator around 24/7. We'll answer the phone. We've made it a little bit harder to get through the phone because it's a little bit harder to enable AI resolution on, and we see customers having a much more successful experience when they navigate from voice to phone. If I go back to I guess our dabble in emerging technology, it definitely wasn't a smooth transition. Demos look amazing. Sorry, Alan, your product's really good too. But there are so many companies that wanted to demo that they could just solve all of these problems for us. But what we really gained an understanding from was FAQs and that sort of thing was only part of the problem. And to be fair, 20-30% of our resolution comes from FAQs. The rest all comes from agentic flows and giving our AI agents the toolkit needed to drive that. What we did learn was our knowledge base that we'd just invested a whole bunch of time standing up and improving for our agents didn't quite cut the mustard. It's probably an Aussie stain, I'm not sure, but didn't quite work when it came to the AI agent. So transitioning that across into there and putting that effort in really served us well and still serves us today. We haven't really done an overhaul of that in the last few years. It's still working well. Might jump over to the next slide, Lee. Um, so what we landed on was Little Brain, which is the knowledge base in the middle there, but bringing together data is important. I guess obviously the tooling that's facing customers is important, but the workflows around how we authenticate users and customers and what all the different scenarios are there and how we deal with global customers that are traveling that might have one email and three or four different phone numbers for the different countries they operate in and that sort of thing and how we drive there. Um, so that's the product and what we pulled together. I'll touch on volumes a little bit, Lee, in the next slide. But in the last 12 months, we've handled 2 million customer inquiries. Not over 900,000 of those were resolved via AI agents. One of those is our chatbot. One of those is our email automation provided by Alan and the team at White Meadows. What that actually looks like in practice, though, Joy, our chatbot, has received over 1,000 named five-star reviews online. So this is customers thanking Joy for the service, our AI agent. Um, we've saved approximately 50% of our resourcing. You see a little bit of a volume spike through December there. Alex, that'll feel familiar to you, and that's what it looks like for us. But really, what the benefit to us has been is refocusing and looking further up the pipeline to be like, what are the things that are driving volume into the contact center and how we reduce that? So we measure our contact rate. It's been growing year on year. Over the last 6 months, we've actually been able to see that, I guess, the data, the intelligence that we're capturing is driving some decisions that are enabling us to really bring that down. I'd say I contribute to that. I've got to recognize our product and engineering teams do a lot of work to do with that. But the technology is giving us the visibility to drive that. Um, Ask Claude, look over all our customer feedback and all our positive CSAT surveys, and it told us that speed is the number one resolution there. And a lot of our customers are in the checkout at the store, that sort of thing. So they're at Walmart, they're trying to pay for their shopping with a gift card. If that doesn't work, speed's really important there, and that's what we're aiming to deliver. Okay. Just a quick little wrap up. I know I've only got a few seconds to go, Paul, but we use quite an agnostic tech stack. We've got a few different players. They're all really trusted and valued partners of ours. the journey is not always linear, right? So it's sort of you can get hung up on the numbers, and one week it's really good, and the next week it's like, oh, geez, there's something broken, and it really just comes through there. But we sort of broke it up into a few key stages, and like I said, those sort of 10-20% uplifts were really important to get us going.
Sorry. Sorry about that.
Oh, good, mate. That's it, guys. So thank you for your time today. Really, yeah, really appreciate the opportunity to come and talk to you about where we've been, where we're going a little bit, and yeah.
Amazing. Thank you. And wow, Pete, your time management was very impressive, I have to say. So nice work there. Sorry to have that little horn beep in. I thought I turned that off, but obviously didn't. Folks, if you have any questions, post those in the chat. We will discuss those. I have a question for you all. I think it's amazing. Agents took 900,000 of your 2 million inbounds. Do you both think that that's going to increase? And what at what rate? You know, when do you hit 90% of all inbound tickets? What are your thoughts on that?
Really interesting question, Paul. Depending on the day of the week, depends on my answer. Today at 7 a.m. in the morning, I'm saying we're fairly happy with that balance that we've got at the moment. Obviously, we'd like to have it increase over time, but the investment in terms of I guess, building the APIs and the engineering effort to deliver what we know we need to drive that is the commercial decision. And what we're doing at the moment is really focusing around like we can see errors through our experience. How do we contextualize those for our agent to solve for customers that are in those scenarios so that it's really personalized and customized to that scenario? And then how do we actually introduce our AI tooling and support customers up front there to be like, hey, I can see that your payments failed. I'm here to help you out with that. Have you
Hmm.
tried logging out of this other region, that sort of thing?
Hmm. And Christopher's asking a question just related to this. What type of assistance does your human agents provide at this point?
Uh, Really intertwined in terms of that. So we see we don't have hard closure around different intent types, that sort of thing, but our team are primarily live chat now because it's timely and that's what's helped us drive abandonment down. Um, So yeah, and
Interesting.
the
Yeah.
AI agents do everything, but we've really focused on and I've run quite an empowerment model, and it scares people sometimes when I'm like, hey, give the agents the ability to offer goodwill and resolve customer queries up front, so that they have the tools and the capability to be able to do everything. So we're not escalating just for the sake of getting the team leader involved or getting a manager involved when
Hmm.
they really have the tools and ability to make that decision for us.
And have you been surprised by the iterations and maintenance required for effective agents as you've gone through this process?
Uh, I think definitely the evolution of the products that we use. So it's a testament to those companies, and I think the way they're able to develop and improve their product. What I definitely wasn't aware of or wasn't necessarily ready for was that the LLM models changed significantly. So the maintenance and keeping up to date, and we had probably some things we shouldn't have been doing to run at the pace we were, and they worked fine, and then in 3 months they didn't work quite as well anymore, or there was a different outcome or unintended consequence of putting an internal note for us so that we knew what it was called and what it was doing, and then 6 months later the AI agents or the models going in and reading that information and being like, hey, I'm not going to do that because I don't understand what this means, but that's our internal sort of code for what that playbook was or what that action was.
Interesting. Very good. All right.
And Paul,
Mhm.
just to circle back to Nicole's question, in terms of did you start with a smaller cohort and then sort of build? I guess, Pete, it's fair to say that what we tried to do, Nicole, was actually sort of ring fence it to inquiry type. So we started off with one inquiry type and then built off the back of that. So, but to be honest, it was kind of like just rip the band-aid off and kind of be your own Nike ad and just do it. And so we had the support of the executive team, we had the support of the board. And what we found is, as we navigated through this journey, I didn't even know that, what a chatbot, generative AI chatbot trainer kind of would do. But that role has just been incredibly invaluable. And so, yes, we did start off with sort of a particular inquiry type and built from there. But the journey has really been just, yeah, the iteration. And I just think that that's an ongoing activity that we'll never sort of kind of pull back on, because at the end of the day, that knowledge base, that brain, is really where we need to invest a lot of our time in terms of continuously improving the responses for the customer.
Mm. Man, I think the key words you said there, Leanne, was you had the board and the executive team on board. So make sure that you've got that for you as you run this. I was with a bunch of product folks last month, and many product teams are also experiencing a lot of support from their CS or from their executives and their boards to adopt AI. The question that we're exploring now is, how do you build it for outcomes? How do you prove the ROI? Like, that's just now starting to surface. It's probably going to be easier for support, but from a product perspective, it was a very interesting question. All right, we have got to go to breakout rooms, but maybe one of you can answer this one really quick. Matthew says, when and how do your human agents get involved? Assuming you start with an AI agent first for the first touch, and then what happens after that, maybe. Can you just quickly explain that?
Yeah, really quickly, we've got sort of two layers. So our AI tooling all hands off to an agent if required, or to a human agent if required. And then we've got this little program that's like customer rescue. So we're monitoring QA capability and that sort of thing now is really strong, right? So there's still a customer rescue thing that's going and identifying those interactions where we didn't quite hit the mark, pulling those out and going, hey, why didn't it work? What do we need to do differently, and then getting that through to resolution, and then feeding that back through in terms of, hey, why did these things not work the way we wanted to, or is there a new piece of information or a new edge case around why that didn't work for the customer?